we're talking about 9-5. We're talking about filing for supervisors working, and we're talking about harassment or recording of drivers. All of this stuff, all of this language is only as strong as we choose to enforce it. So just because this language is in here doesn't mean the company's not going to try to do it. I mean, anybody who's been working at UPS for longer than 6 months knows the company's going to try to get away with whatever it can.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to, you as an employee, it doesn't matter if you're not a shop steward or a union official or anything. It's your job, it's your duty to police the company on this. All right, I'm Alexander Edward.
And I'm Tony Boswell.
We are Minion Death Cult. And this is UPS Teamsters contract updates. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and commenting on our video for the highlights of the tentative National Master Agreement between UPS and Teamsters. Well, the full language has been made available sooner than I expected. It was made available yesterday, the 26th. Today is July 27th. Get the Teamsters app if you don't have it already. The contract language is now in the Teamsters app, so that's what I'm going off. That's what I'll be going off for this video. You will probably have to update the app and then download the additional content and then install the additional content, and then you will be able to see the tentative contract agreement as like a little icon on your homepage. You can click on that and you'll be able to read it from there. I'm dealing with a PDF that I was able to download in one of my Facebook groups, and you might be able to find like a downloadable PDF version of the contract in from your local or from your coworkers. It makes it a little easier to go through. We are recording this at 7:30 a.m. before my shift start time, so forgive any drowsiness. Thank you to Tony for getting up early to co-host this thing with me. Appreciate you, buddy.
No problem. I figure if you're also getting up earlier on some days to go practice picketing, so I figure I can get up early to record an episode of this podcast.
Yeah, it's only fair. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with what everybody wants to hear about from this contract, which is wage progression. Looking at the official language here, I was right. It's $7.50 total over the course of the 5-year contract. So right here, we're on page 18, section 5, wages for part-time employees. You'll be receiving a $2.75 raise in 2023, like we suggested. But that's not on top of another $7.50 raise over the duration of the contract. That is included in the full $7.50 raise figure, because right here for 2023, $2.75, 2024, 75 cents, 2025, 75 cents, 2026, $1, 2027, $22.25. That totals $7.50.
It's so weird. The increments are so weird. Like, what do they think is happening? What do they think is going to be happening in 2024 and 2025 where they can keep it the same?
Well, it saves the company money. And I mean, you get this big raise at the beginning of not big, but big relative to the rest of these raises of $275. And then everything else is much lower until you get to the final year, which is $220. It's like the progression. It's like the full-time wage progression. You don't get that big bump until the last year. Where this language becomes confusing and where the sort of released highlights were also confusing people is this $21 an hour figure. Okay, I was up late last night doing math, so you're welcome, everybody, for having to do fucking math. $21 an hour is like a baseline threshold that every part-timer is going to be at by the end of this contract, I believe.
Oh wow! So it's $21 in 2027.
I believe so, because
that's what it looks like.
Because what right here, number 3, after application of the general wage increase, which is this the the 5-year wage increases. And the minimum 20, okay, so right here, any senior part-time employee below $21 an hour after the application of the general wage increase. So that's, I believe, this full progression, this full 5 years progression is the general wage increase. So if you're at the top rate, if you're at the top rate for part-timers, which is $15.50, and you get the $7.50 raise over the course of 5 years, that brings you to exactly $21 an hour. Mm-hmm. So all current top rate part-time employees will automatically be $21 an hour after the 5-year progression, right? But if you're not at that level, if you're not at that $15 level, if you're under that, well, then $7.50 over 5 years doesn't quite get you to $21 an hour. That's where this rule comes in. You're just going to get bumped up to $21
whatever that is.
Say you're making $13 an hour right now. After 5 years, you're only going to be making $20 an hour. Sorry. Yeah, somewhere around there. So then you'll get bumped up to that $1. Then after that, it appears, that's when you're going to get the longevity raise, which is the catch-up raises. That's like for part-time employees who have been here from 5 to 10 years, you get an additional 50 cents. So not that great for 5 to 10 years of service. 10 to 15 years of service, you get a dollar rate. So like a little better, but still that's a lot of time, with the company. And then over 15 years of service, you get $1.50.
Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. $1.50. That's wild. 15 years. There's not many things I've done in my life for 15 years. Like I think this year is like my 15th year vegan. And that's nuts.
The thing is like the company doesn't really want you to stay for 15 years.
No,
the company would rather roll you over and get somebody new. So I think the only thing that I kind of messed up in our highlights video that we did when only the highlights were available is that some senior part-time employees will be making $25 an hour or more at the end of this contract. So if you have to add $7.50 to whatever your pay rate is. Say you're a senior employee making $19 an hour. Well, then you'll be up to $26, $26.50, right? So, but that's after 5 years.
That's 5 years, yeah.
It's after 5 years, so it's still not quite what we were asking for part-timers, which was like 25 to start. We'll get into responses to our YouTube video, just a couple, but can't spend a lot of time on this video really, so I want to keep working through it. The other language here is the part-time transfer. This is pretty cool. Part-time employees who wish to transfer to another location for non-educational purposes may submit a written request to the employer provided the facilities in question are more than 50 miles apart. So you can transfer as a part-timer. You don't have to prove that you're in school in that area to get a transfer to that area anymore. That's a cool update. I think that should apply probably. Full-time employees can transfer within your rider, your supplemental agreement.
Yeah. That's cool. I think all three of you mentioned transferring for various reasons and having to go to school in order to do that.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying.
In the part-time interview you did?
Yeah.
I think all three of you mentioned doing that. So that's having to do that. So that's really great.
Okay, let's go to full-time wages now. It's on page 40. Okay, full-time wages, again, it is $7.50 over the course of 5 years. It's $2.75 for the first year, 75 cents for the next 2 years, $1 for 2026, and then $2.25 for 2027. So I personally feel these are pretty decent wages for full-timers. Other people may disagree. I'm open to hearing that argument, but here's the thing that maybe people don't want to hear. I don't mean to sound like an asshole when I say that, but Getting rid of the 22-4 driving job, huge. Can't
Yeah.
honestly, like, can't really be overstated what a big deal that is. That's a huge chunk of money that we took from UPS. You have to think of it in terms of money. For every 22-4 driver they were using, they were saving at least $10 an hour on that that driver's labor. Not only that, but they were hoping to like set up an entire new classification. I mean, they did set up an entirely new classification of driver in the hopes of like diminishing everybody's wage, you know, bringing everybody's wage down, because now regular full-time package cars would have had to compete with 22-4 drivers essentially for work. So not good. So that's a lot of money that we got back from UPS getting rid of that 22-4 driving job. I think that was the most important thing in this contract. There's a lot of important stuff in these negotiations, but I think that was one of the most important. I wasn't even sure if we'd be able to do it, to be honest. I wasn't even sure if the union was going to be able to exert enough power to be able to do it. So that was pleasantly surprising to me. The progression here is not much better than, so progression, if you're unfamiliar, progression is like the rate at which your pay increases. Right now it takes 4 years to get to the top rate of a driver. Like what we're describing, like it's 40 or 42 now, then it's going to be 49. Well, if you just start driving, you only start at $23 an hour as of this contract. And then you go up to 24 the next year, then 25 the year after that, then 30. So there's your big, third year, fourth year bump. And then you go up over $10 an hour, right?
Yeah.
Some people seem to be unhappy with this progression, which I totally understand. I think the progression is another form of two-tier full-time jobs. It's another way of saving the company a lot of money, and it's another way of suppressing wages. And I think you're still doing the same work as a 4-year employee as you are a 2-year driver or a 1-year driver. In fact, you're often doing a lot harder work as a new driver, because you have
you don't have like seniority on routes and stuff.
Right. And you're just taking extra work. You're filling in holes. You actually probably have a more diverse set of skills as a newer driver, because you're forced to do city, you're forced to do rural, you're forced to do, apartment buildings, business, like you have to have all kinds of route knowledge as a low seniority cover driver. So I definitely don't agree with progression, and we've seen the progression get longer over the lifetime of UPS itself. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. It used to just be you passed probation as a driver and you were making top rate. Like 6 months, or, right when you start, you make top rate. And that makes sense to me. Like it makes sense. You're doing a certain amount of labor for the company, no matter how long you've been working there. And I mean, anybody who doesn't agree with progression can also turn, like the driving progression, can also turn this argument on part-time labor, because I've seen the argument that, part-timers, you got to pay your dues. You got to put in time before you're worth that much money.
That's the worst.
Well, that doesn't make sense for a part-time package car driver. Why would you think, I'm busting my ass, 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, just like these other senior drivers? Why do they get paid like twice as much as I do?
Yeah.
Right? Because it doesn't matter how much like time or goodwill or whatever you've put into the company. I mean, that should matter for like raises for everybody as we go forward, but for you personally, you're still doing the same labor. The company is still getting the same work out of you. Okay, with all of that said, and this is what I was going to save as a response at the end, but I'll say it now since we're on it. A lot of people, like I said, or not a lot of people, but I've seen people complain about this progression and how it doesn't it's not a 2-year progression. It's not a 3-year progression. The numbers themselves aren't much better. The increases aren't much better than previous contracts. I agree with all of that. Getting rid of even 2 years of progression. So going from 4 years of progression to 2 years of progression is so much money.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if people have thought about it. If you do the math, it's way more money than getting rid of 22-4 drivers. Getting rid of 22-4 combo positions saved the company $10 an hour, about $10 an hour for each 22-4 driver they were employing.
Mm-hmm.
With the progression, a driver at 24 months, at 2 years seniority, is only $25. They're saving more than $15 an hour.
Yeah.
For every driver that's in progression, not just the small percentage who were like 22-4 combo drivers. That's every new driver. They're saving at least $15 an hour at that 2 year. At 3 years, they're saving over $10 an hour. So getting rid of that progression or pushing it back, huge. That's like a lot of money. It's a huge ask. And now, with that said, that means that when the union gave them this progression, the union gave them a ton of money, right? So we have to try and get that back to whatever degree we can. I don't think that's even something they mentioned in a call. I think O'Brien said that they were offhandedly, he said that they were working on getting progression down to 2 years. That's the only time I ever heard that, and I kind of didn't take it seriously. I was like surprised when I heard that. I was like, damn, that's a big deal. That would be nuts if they did that. I didn't take that as like a promise. Maybe some other people did, but I didn't see that as realistic. I like that we were looking at it, this contract, and with this next contract, we won't have the 22-4 job to get rid of, which leaves us a lot more bargaining room to address progression. And I think that's something that we should definitely push our leaders to address next contract for sure. Full-time inside wages right here. They've increased the top rate from 30 to 35. So these are the combo employees. These are the 22-3 combo employees who do the warehouse work, but they have 2 part-time shifts. Mm-hmm. They work 2 part-time shifts to create a full-time job. The progression, it goes up. It used to start at $16 an hour, which is insane. Now it's up to 23. So you'd be making $2 more than a new part-timer rather. So could be better. Then 24, then 25, then 28, and then you hit top rate at 35, which is up from $5. That's a 1/6 increase in your top rate. Not too bad of an overall increase in the top rate, but again, like the progression is kind of frustrating there. Okay. Other things I wanted to address in this contract. 9-5 language. We have that here on page 3. So this relates to like forced overtime over 9.5 hours. We have provisions now where you can file a grievance if you're being made to work over 9.5 hours more than 3 days in a week. Not much change to this language. I'm not seeing any other penalties that we didn't already have, except for in the event that any individual supervisor is found to be in violation of the first paragraph of this subsection 3 times in any 9-month rolling period, the grievance shall be paid at quadruple time the employee's pay rate. This is supervisors working. Sorry, this is supervisors working. Quadruple time for supervisors working. That's pretty cool. I don't know that grievances in general are a deterrent for supervisors working. The company has like infinite amount of money. I don't know whether part-time supervisors are actually disciplined for working or if they're encouraged to do it regardless. But quadruple time, I guess, is better than triple time. I don't know if that's going to be a big deterrent.
And it's that thing too, where like some people are going to be like, I'm going to try to get that quadruple time every once in a while.
I mean, you should absolutely get the quadruple time anytime you can, and you should grieve anytime you can. And grievance checks are always nice. Supervisors working though, you're only going to be able to catch them for like 15 minutes or whatever. Document them. Don't interrupt them. Just document it. I wanted to scroll to the 9-5 language since I brought it up. That's on page 33 here. Again, not much change to this language. Where is it? Was there any change to this? Yeah. After 45-day supplemental co-chair meeting, if there are continued violations of the 9.5 clause, the co-chair shall have the discretion to grant quadruple time penalties. So again, just raising it from triple to quadruple. So what I mean, it's good. You'll get paid, but I don't know what kind of a deterrent it will be. In this contract, we also have no inward-facing cameras. This is something they haven't implemented at our building yet, to my knowledge, at least. And it's something. It's a big concern for privacy reasons and harassment reasons. And this new language here seems pretty strong to me. Vehicles may not be equipped with inward-facing cameras. Forward-facing capability of cameras shall not be used for discipline. Further, there shall be no in-cab audio recording or videotaping. That's essential. Any functionality included in driver-facing cameras, including their driver recording and monitoring functionality, will be disabled and rendered inoperable to prevent recording and monitoring of in-cab activities. Upon request, evidence of the disabled functionality of any driver-facing camera shall be provided to the package division. So I think this is a good place to kind of address an overall aspect of the union. And we're talking about 9.5, we're talking about filing for supervisors working, and we're talking about harassment or recording of drivers. All of this stuff, all of this language is only as strong as we choose to enforce it. So just because this language is in here doesn't mean the company's not going to try to do it. I mean, anybody who's been working at UPS for longer than 6 months knows the company's going to try to get away with whatever it can.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to, you as an employee, it doesn't matter if you're not a shop steward or a union official or anything. It's your job, it's your duty to police the company on this. So yes, the language for like 9.5 and for supervisors working could be stronger, or there could be different penalties that aren't monetary or something like that. I don't know what that would look like. But what we do have is only as effective as we choose to employ it. So you have to be an advocate for this stuff. You have to be a representative of this contract language, and you should definitely have a copy of the contract. When it gets, you can have a copy of the current contract right now, and then obviously get a copy of this contract and just have it for reference and make sure the company is adhering to it.
Yeah, filing grievances is actually important work. Filing grievances is like direct action. You have to do it.
And you get paid for it. So why not?
Yeah.
Okay. We have here weekend work schedules. Okay. So there's language in here about seniority bidding on Monday through Friday schedules or Tuesday through Saturday schedules. You can look through that if that applies to you. It's right here. Sorry, 1 second. Where it says, you shall not be made to work a day outside your work week. Yeah,
because you were talking about this is like the 6-day language, right?
Yeah, 1 second. Here he goes. No RPCD, no regular package car driver shall be forced to work any day outside of their regular scheduled work week. That's huge. I guess you file a grievance for harassment if they try to make you come in. But as of right now, as of this contract, when it gets ratified, if it gets ratified, they can't work you that 6th day. You have to volunteer to come in. So that's pretty cool, because I've seen people in our replies talk about how they're getting occasions for calling in on a Saturday they're not scheduled for. The company says, you have to work tomorrow. You say, I can't make it. Or you call in on that Saturday to tell them you're not going to be there, and then they discipline you, or at least they give you an occasion which they can hold over your head. Not the case anymore. So that's good.
And for those who aren't aware, an occasion is like a write-up, right? Where it's not quite, it's like on the way to being really disciplined, right?
No, occasion is like a check mark against you leading up to the discipline.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's like incident. An occasion is
It's like
like
a warning.
no, it's not even a warning.
Not even a warning.
It's just a tally of your infractions. So like every time if I'm a minute late to work, well, that shows up as an occasion on my record, but the company doesn't have to actually call me into the office and discipline me.
Yeah.
So occasion is just like how many bodies you got stacked up before they decide to do something about it, essentially. And then they drop off after 9 months. So they can't like discipline you for occasions that happened over 9 months ago.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, cell phones in buildings. We got language here that explicitly allows employees to use their cell phones inside buildings. I know, where is it here? I know some people were like being prevented from bringing their cell phones into warehouses and stuff, which is absurd. I think I put the wrong page number down here, so I'm not exactly sure where it is.
Imagine working in the warehouse when you worked in the warehouse without headphones and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, insane.
No.
It's just untenable to work without headphones. We had to get a property pass sticker when I was at Ontario in Southern California to be able to bring our phones in. Like, and you couldn't, and they wouldn't allow an iPhone. Like you couldn't have an iPhone because I guess they were, so desirable. You were definitely stealing it if you had an iPhone on you. Here we got the language against heat. The language for heat safety. This is what we knew. The AC will only apply to package cars purchased after 2024, and they will be allocated to the hottest regions of the country, like Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 1 I know is the South. But it does state that they'll have to replace 28,000 package cars during the life of this agreement. So that means 28,000 package cars with AC over this contract, which is good. AC was never a strike issue for us in this contract. And the AC language, I don't think is something we had to really fight for. I think it's something the company wanted to show that they were doing to help out their drivers who are, passing out from heat exhaustion on camera. They definitely wanted to show that they were doing something about that. So, I mean, this is a good first step, I guess. And this also creates a committee, package car heat committee, consisting of 3 individuals appointed by the union and 3 by the employer. And they're going to look at like what else we can do to help. Because, I mean, it's only got to get hotter in this country, and we're all working outside in metal boxes. So we need to have a plan going forward. I think AC in the cab is good. A lot of people are like, well, you can't run it while you're turning the engine off and getting in and out of the car, and it's not going to be effective. And it's like, well, if you're having heat exhaustion, it will be effective. You can turn on the car, put on the AC, and hopefully that'll help. I mean, right now, the procedure for heat exhaustion is find some shade.
Yeah.
Drink some water, find some shade. Okay, well, AC is better than shade.
Pray a little bit. It's funny. Penny was at dinner with like my uncle. My mom took her to dinner with my uncle or something like that. And so she got back and she's like, hey, is UPS going on strike? And I was like, yeah. She's like, is it because of the air conditioning in the cars? And I was like, well, they're going to get air conditioning now, but like eventually, with new cars and stuff. She goes, well, that's what they kept on saying. I'm like, could you tell if they were like saying that was reasonable or if they were how was their tone? She goes, I couldn't tell. So I was trying to ask you what was going on. I couldn't tell if they liked it or not. I was like, yeah, I have no idea. That's so funny. That is funny. They got the AC. So she's stoked you got AC.
Well, thank you, Penny. I appreciate your concern. Okay, new full-time jobs. Accordingly, I'm looking at page 16, section 3. Accordingly, the employer commits that during the life of this agreement, it will offer part-time employees the opportunity to fill at least 22,500 permanent job openings throughout the operations covered by this agreement. I mean, that sounds like a lot. I don't know what that actually, I mean, that's what percentage of 340,000 jobs. So it seems like a big number, but it might not be proportionally. It includes the obligation to create at least 7,500 new full-time jobs from existing part-time jobs in the last 3 years of this agreement. So that's that we're talking about converting part-time jobs into the full-time inside combo position, which is something a lot of people ask for because not everybody wants to drive. I totally get that. And if there is full-time work to be done inside these buildings, I think we should absolutely force the company to create full-time jobs out of, again, this vital, necessary labor that happens inside the buildings. It's and then it delineates like how many jobs per year. The other thing that I don't know, I guess this is old language because it's not underlined or bolded. In creating these jobs, the company shall be allowed up to 1.5 hour gap between jobs in a workday. So that's what I've been hearing from people about split shifting, about people not just like taking on an extra shift whenever they can, but have an actual permanently scheduled full-time position that's one shift now and then a break. I was hearing that there were breaks of like hours between people's part-time, combo shifts. I thought, when I first glanced at this, I was like, oh, 1.5 hour, I guess that's not bad. But still, you don't want to have to like hang out an hour and a half on like your own time without getting paid. And that, that, because that's like, what can you do?
Hopefully you live close,
What can you do in an hour and a half? Take a shit and a shower?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think that's all in this contract. Sorry, I can't really go over the pensions. I'm in over my head when I look at the pensions. There is pension language in the master contract, but then also a lot of people's pensions are handled by their supplementals, by the region that they're in has specific provisions for their pensions. So you're going to have to like talk to your local and find out, or like read the contract for yourself. If you know what these pension numbers are, you're going to have to read the contract for yourself and check it out. So apologies for that I can't really help you there. Same thing with full-time with feeder drivers. There's language in here for feeder. It talks about mileage rates and things like that. I'm not familiar with that stuff, so you'll have to unfortunately kind of ask for help from a different place or look at it yourself. I wanted to, right before we get out of here, address a couple responses we got. Bramble Demon says, you all are unbelievable. You think the baseline starting wage should be $25 an hour. In my supplement, our pensions and healthcare benefits add $25 an hour to our pay. Right there, I'm going to stop you right there. That's company propaganda. You're like regurgitating stuff that UPS put out in a press release. Healthcare is good. Healthcare is great. It's cheaper for the company to pay for healthcare than it is for you to get your healthcare off the street. So the idea of a monetary assignment, a monetary value that UPS is going to assign the monetary value that makes them look best. And that's paying for healthcare out of pocket off the street. Yeah, of course that's more expensive. We live in a screwed up system where if you, even just by having insurance, they lower your the actual cost to the insurance company by 50 to 60 to 80%.
Yeah. You're going to get your mind blown when you look into how insurance works, especially when it's through a company.
Yeah. And then second of all, now that people can stay on their parents' insurance until they're what's the age cutoff, Tony?
26?
Yeah, that's what 26. Like insurance isn't as big of an enticement as it used to be. For sure, like when I was working part-time, I kept the job for the insurance because I couldn't be on my parents' insurance. And my mom and my dad were like, you better stay in that fucking job, dude. Because that's how you get insurance. That's a big deal. And it is a big deal. But it's not as big of a deal as it used to be, and it's not as big of a deal as the company is making it out to be as well.
But it's also so necessary that it shouldn't even really be mentioned like that, It's like not. It's like, oh, it's what we need. Everyone should need that. So your company should definitely give it to you.
And then name one company nationwide that pays their part-timers more. Name it. It doesn't exist. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does exist. I know a lot of like servers make like $28 an hour because they took away tips. You know, if they eliminate tips, they usually make like close to $30 an hour. But my response to that is, name another company that makes $25 part-time or whatever. Name another company that pays their drivers over $40 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
totally.
UPS is a leader in this industry because of like the standards that the union has held it to. And you can't it makes no sense to why should I compare what I make to a FedEx employee? Does that mean I should okay, well then fine, I'll work for just $1 more than the FedEx employee. No, why would I do that?
Yeah,
What like it's irrational. The company I think can afford to pay their employees $25 an hour, and those employees are the ones generating the revenue for the company.
Exactly. Name another company that has the record-setting profit margins that you guys have had in the past couple of years.
Absolutely. And then, along these same lines, James Johnson said, ungrateful people.
Yeah, you ungrateful piece of shit.
Yeah. You should be lucky the company even pays you. Like you're ungrateful for the money that the company pays you that they generated with your labor. How do you think the company got that money to pay me with?
Do you know what an honor it is to wear the brown? Do you understand what an honor it is? Show some goddamn respect.
Sorry, I wasn't grateful enough to my job for letting me work there. For letting me work, 12 hours a day for 2 years straight. But yeah, we're gonna leave it here to keep the video short. Thanks again to everybody for watching. Subscribe. We got plenty of videos about UPS Teamsters stuff. We do a show. The comedy politics show about crazy online people. So check that out if you want some laughs for your day. And we'll probably talk to you again soon, folks. Thanks for watching.
Yes.